You know that very specific, very dangerous feeling you get when you decide to upgrade your tools.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's the productive procrastination trap.
Right, exactly. It is a trap we all fall into. You are sitting there, and maybe you have a deadline looming, or maybe you are just trying to organize your life, and you think to yourself, well, if I just install this new app or switch to this entirely new system, everything's going to be effortless.
Yeah, you feel like you are working because you are optimizing the workflow, but you aren't actually doing the work yet.
Exactly. It feels virtuous. You are sharpening the axe. But then, and I swear this is a universal law of nature, you install the shiny new thing, you delete the old clunky thing, you sit down to start your masterpiece, and absolutely nothing works.
The screen is just completely blank. Or worse, filled with red error messages.
Yes, the red error messages. And you just sit there thinking, why did I do this to myself? I should have just left it alone.
It is the classic 2 steps forward, 1 giant step back into dependency hell. I mean, it happens in woodworking, it happens in kitchen renovations, and it definitely happens in software development.
And that is exactly where we are starting today. Welcome to our deep dive. We are looking into that specific agonizing moment of frustration.
Yeah, we are looking at a developer who tried to migrate from an old faithful tool to the new speed demon on the block, hit an absolute brick wall, and had to claw his way out.
So today's topic is firmly in the Python programming ecosystem. Specifically, we are talking about moving from a tool called PM to a much newer tool called UV.
Right, and how that migration completely broke an automation and testing tool called Nox.
And I want to be clear about this right up front, because this is why I chose this specific stack of sources. This is not just about fixing a path error in a terminal.
No, not at all.
It's really about a broader philosophy of problem solving. The source we are using today is a blog post titled Notes on Python Programming, Easiest Approach to Connect Nox to Multiple U-Installed Python Versions.
Quite a mouthful of a title.
It is, but the author is Ang Kian Meng, and you can find this on his site at kianmeng.org. He describes himself as an old software plumber.
I love that phrase, old software plumber.
It's so good. And let me tell you, his approach to fixing this technical glitch tells us something really profound about how we rely on AI, how we actually learn, and why taking meticulous notes might be the single most important skill you can develop.
It really is a fascinating look at the difference between just patching a problem to make an error go away and actually taking the time to understand the complex system you are working with.
So let's get into it. But before we get anywhere near the Python code, we really have to talk about the old software plumber himself. Because I spent some time clicking around his website, kianmeng.org, and it is, well, it's not your typical tech blog.
No, it is not. It is more like a carefully curated museum of a person's entire curiosity.
It's an archive. I was looking at the sidebar, and sure, you see notes on Python and notes on Elixir, which you would totally expect from a developer. But then you keep scrolling down and you see notes on gardening.
Yeah, and not just casual notes either.
Exactly. Not just like, hey, I planted a tomato today. I mean detailed, obsessive log.
I think I saw there are over 800 entries just in the gardening section alone.
818 parts, to be precise. He is documenting root rot. He is logging propagation techniques for Brazilian plants. He is actively asking and answering questions like, why is my variegated plant reverting to green? It is this incredible, almost academic scientific rigor just applied to his backyard.
And that is such a key insight into who we are dealing with here. This is not someone who just dabbles in things until he gets bored. This is a person who deeply observes.
And it doesn't even stop at the plants. He has notes on fish keeping. There's literally a post titled, Will Guppies Eat? And it's followed by these detailed daily observations of algae growth in his tanks.
He has betta fish spawn logs too.
Right, betta spawn logs, notes on dieting, notes on photography, home improvement, and this archive, this constant documentation, goes all the way back to 2011.
See, this context is crucial for you to understand. When we talk about the technical error he faced with Python, you have to remember who is fussing it.
Yeah.
This is a man who tracks the minute, invisible variables of a fish tank ecosystem. He firmly believes in data. He believes in the systematic daily recording of reality. He doesn't just do things, he chronicles how they work.
Which is so incredibly rare these days. I feel like most of us, and I am definitely guilty of this, When we hit a snag, we just want it gone immediately.
Yeah.
We don't want to understand the root rot. We just want the plant to look green right now so we can move on with our day.
Precisely. We want the quick patch. Aang wants the true diagnosis. Remember, he calls himself a plumber who tinkers with floss-free Libre and open-source software.
Right.
And if you think about what makes a good plumber, they don't just slap a piece of duct tape on a leaking pipe and walk away hoping for the best.
Because that's how you flood your house.
Exactly. A real plumber needs to understand the water pressure, the flow rate, where the blockage is actually originating from, because if you miss a subtle seal, you ruin the entire floor.
So I want you to keep that image in your head as we dive into this. The plumber. The observer. Now let's look at the specific pipe he was trying to fix. Set the scene for us. What was this software migration that caused all the trouble in the first place?
So for a long time, the absolute standard way to manage different Python versions on your computer has been a tool called Pyum.
Okay.
Let's say you are a developer. You have one old client project that still needs Python 3.10 to run, but you have another brand new project that requires the features in Python 3.12.
You can't just have one global version of Python installed.
Right. You need a manager to swap between them seamlessly depending on what folder you are in. That is what PM does.
It's like a traffic cop. You go here, you go there.
Exactly. But recently, a new tool called Amora has just completely exploded onto the scene.
Yeah?
It is written in Rust, which is the trendy programming language right now because it is incredibly fast.
Super fast.
And aims to be the one tool to rule them all. It wants to replace your package installer, your version manager, your environment creator, everything.
So it's the shiny new toy. It's essentially the Ferrari to PM's reliable Honda Civic.
It really is. So Aang decides to do the upgrade. He swaps out PM for Juve. The initial installation goes totally fine. He's feeling productive. But then he tries to run his automated tests using a tool called Nox.
Okay, for the non-developers listening right now, give us the explain, like I'm 5 version of what Nox actually is.
Sure. Nox is basically a strict quality control inspector for your code. You write your software, and then you tell Nox, hey, go run this code in a bunch of different completely isolated rooms.
Okay.
Run it in a room that only has Python 3.10, then run it in a room with Python 3.11, and make sure my code doesn't break in any of those environments.
Got it. So Nox is the stress tester. It proves your code works everywhere, not just on your specific machine.
Right. And for that inspector to do his job, he obviously needs to know where those rooms are. Nox needs to be able to find Python 3.11 and 3.11 on your hard drive to build those testing rooms.
And I'm guessing that is exactly where the trouble started.
Yeah. Nox failed immediately. It completely crashed. It couldn't find any of the Python versions. Aang had just installed them with Of, so he knew for a fact they were on his computer, but Nox was coming back completely empty-handed.
It's like the inspector walked into the warehouse, looks around, and said, nope, it's empty in here. Even though Aang is literally pointing at the boxes saying, they are right there in front of you.
Exactly. And the reason for this is because Of stores them differently. This is the core technical conflict of the whole migration.
Tell me more about that.
When you use the older tools like Pyum, they usually put the Python versions in a place where the whole operating system can easily see them. It's like putting your tools on a big pegboard right in the middle of the garage. Everyone knows where the hammer is.
Makes total sense.
But Avav is a bit more, let's call it hygienic. It tends to keep things heavily isolated in its own specific hidden directories. It doesn't necessarily shout to the whole operating system, hey, everybody, I have Python 3.1 over here.
I see.
So Nox, which is programmed to look in the standard pegboard locations, just couldn't see them at all.
So here you are. You're the software plumber. It is late at night. Your tests are failing. The shiny new tool isn't playing nice with the reliable old tool. What is the very first thing that 99% of people do in this exact situation in 2026?
Oh, you don't even hesitate. You open a new browser tab, you go straight to your favorite AI chatbot, and you just paste the error code in. You type, fix this for me.
You summon the Oracle.
You summon the Oracle, and that is exactly what Aang did. He asked the AI why Nox couldn't find the UVI-installed Python versions.
And the AI, being the highly confident, endlessly helpful assistant that it is, gave him a solution right away.
It actually gave him several solutions, and this is the major turning point of his entire blog post. Aang describes the AI's answers as, quote, hackish, over-engineered suggestions.
I really love that word, hackish. It has such a specific vibe to it. It is the difference between actually repairing the bridge and just tying a flimsy rope across the gap and telling people good luck.
That is a perfect analogy for what the AI was doing. It suggested things like, manually editing his core system configuration files, like his Beshirk file, to hard-code the specific hidden folder paths where Eva was storing Python.
Oh, wow.
Or it suggested writing a complex shell script to create symlinks, which are basically fake file shortcuts, just to trick Knox into finding them.
I absolutely hate those kinds of solutions.
Yeah.
You do it, and yes, it works for 5 minutes, so you get that dopamine hit.
Right.
But you know deep down in your soul that you have just created a monster. In 6 months, you were going to look at that configuration file and go, what is this garbage?
Yeah.
Why is this system path hard-coded to a random hidden folder that doesn't even exist anymore?
Exactly. It is incredibly fragile.
Yeah.
Because if Eva updates its software next week and decides to slightly change its internal folder structure, your hard-coded path immediately breaks.
And you have no idea why, because you forgot you hacked it together.
You are back to square one. The AI was entirely prioritizing making the red error text go away right now over building a robust, sustainable system for the future.
But why does it actually do that? I mean, these AI models are trained on millions of lines of excellent code, right? Why wouldn't it just know the correct native way to use the UV-loot?
Well, this is the absolute crux of the issue with relying entirely on AI coding assistance. AI models, fundamentally, are just sophisticated pattern matchers.
Okay.
The model sees a prompt that says, command not found. Its massive training data, which spans 20 years of Linux and Python history, says, hey, historically, when a command is not found, the solution is usually to manually add the directory to your global path variable.
So it is essentially applying a 2015 mentality to a 2026 tool.
Exactly. It is actively fighting the core design philosophy of UV, because UV was specifically designed to be clean and isolated and not mess with global system variables.
Wow.
The AI's solution was to violently break that careful isolation just to force the two tools to talk to each other. It is like the AI suggested drilling a massive hole through the living room wall because it didn't realize there was a perfectly good door just around the corner.
That is such a good way to put it. And this is exactly where the old software plumber persona really kicks in and saves the day. Because a junior developer, or honestly anyone who was just in a huge rush, would have just copied and pasted that script without thinking twice.
They absolutely would have. They would have drilled the hole in the wall, and the worst part is it would have worked. For now.
Right, for now. But Aang looked at that code and said, no, this smells wrong. This is not elegant plumbing.
So he did something that feels almost radical these days. He closed the AI chat window completely.
He stopped querying the Oracle and he started drafting. I found that specific phrase in his post really interesting. He said he started drafting his notes. He didn't just blindly go to Google or Stack Overflow. He opened a blank document and started writing down the problem.
And that connects directly back to his fish keeping logs that we talked about earlier. Think about it. Symptoms. Cloudy water in the tank. Hypotheses. Is the filter blocked? Did I overfeed? By actually writing the problem down, he forced his brain to move out of panic mode, the I need to fix this right now mode, and into pure analysis mode.
It slows you down.
It does. He started manually reading the official documentation of the UV tool itself. He started thinking like a human system architect, not just a copy-paste machine blindly following a chatbot.
And that deliberate process is exactly where he found the aha moment. The real solution wasn't a 10-line bash script. It wasn't a fragile hack. It was a native built-in feature of the tool he was already using.
It was incredibly simple, just 2 short commands in the terminal. The first one is the absolute magic bullet. He typed .uv python install 3.10, 3.11, 3.12 preview.
Okay, stop right there. That preview flag, that tiny little word is doing a ton of heavy lifting in this story, isn't it?
It is the absolute key to the whole puzzle.
So what does that flag actually do under the hood?
The preview flag in the UV tool, at least at the exact time he was writing this blog post, tells the system, hey, install these Python versions, but also manage them in a specific way that makes them easily discoverable to other traditional tools on the operating system.
So it essentially builds the door that the AI didn't even know existed.
Exactly. UV did have a clean, native way to handle this integration without hacking system paths. The AI just had absolutely no idea it was there.
And why is that? Why was the AI blind to it?
Likely because it is a preview feature. It is brand new. It is bleeding edge development. And AI's training data always has a cutoff date. Maybe it was trained 6 months ago or a year ago. So the AI intimately knows the old version of UV, but it doesn't know the UV that exists today in reality.
So the AI is confidently shouting repair instructions for a 1990s Ford while you are standing there trying to fix a brand new Tesla.
And the plumber found the right button because he actually read the manual for the car he was currently driving.
That is so incredibly satisfying to hear. So command 1 was installed with the preview flag. What's the second command he ran?
Just a simple UV Python install command without any version numbers. This just sets the default active version for his specific project folder locally.
And the final result of those two native commands.
He ran Nox again, and it worked instantly, flawlessly. No path hacking required, no editing core system config files, no weird symlink scripts. Nox just picked up all the different Python versions natively and ran the tests.
It is always so deeply satisfying when the correct solution is also the simplest and cleanest one.
Oh, yeah. That is usually the biggest sign of a good software architecture. If you find yourself fighting the tool or writing 5 lines of hacky code to do something that should clearly be automatic, you are almost certainly doing it wrong.
But the blog post doesn't just end with the technical code fix, and this is genuinely why I love this source material so much. Ang wraps up his entire post with a piece of advice that I think frames this whole AI era perfectly. He literally calls it the philosophy of the plumber.
It is a piece of advice that I really think everyone listening needs to hear right now, regardless of what field you work in. He writes, treat your AI as your quick reference for inspiration or to unblock you, but never entirely the source of truth.
Never entirely the source of truth. That line hits really hard because I think culturally, we are all getting a little bit lazy.
We definitely are.
We want the AI to be the definitive source of truth because it is just so much easier than reading dense documentation. It's easier than struggling. It's easier than thinking.
It is easier in the short term. But think about the long-term risks. If Ang had just blindly used the AI's hackish solution, he would have created a permanent dependency on a fragile workaround. He wouldn't actually understand why it worked, just that the red text went away for a minute.
Right, and even worse, he wouldn't have learned about the preview feature at all. He would have completely missed out on the actual evolution of the primary tool he relies on every single day.
Exactly. By forcing himself to do the manual research, he not only permanently solved the problem, but he significantly deepened his mastery of eViv. He mastered his tools instead of just letting a chatbot put a Band-Aid on them.
It connects so beautifully back to his other hobbies.
Yeah.
You mentioned the fish keeping logs earlier. If you just open ChatGPT and ask, hey, why is my fish tank cloudy? It is going to give you the statistical averages.
Right. It'll say, you are probably overfeeding, or it's a bacterial bloom, or you need to clean your filter. The standard textbook answer.
But the AI cannot see your specific tank in your living room. It doesn't know that you just added a new piece of driftwood yesterday that is slowly leaking tannins into the water. It doesn't know your specific history.
Because only the person meticulously keeping the daily log knows that history. You have to be the ultimate source of truth for your own context. And Ang applied that same biological, deeply observational mindset to his software. He realized, look, this AI doesn't know my specific machine. It doesn't know this brand new release of UView. I have to be the one to verify reality.
You know, there's a really interesting tension here between static knowledge and living knowledge.
Oh, say more about that.
Well, an AI model is static by definition, right?
Yeah.
It's a frozen snapshot of the internet from whenever its training run ended. But software tools, gardens, fish tanks, these are dynamic, living, constantly changing systems.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. That preview flag is the literal definition of living knowledge. It is a feature that literally did not exist when the AI model was frozen. If you constantly rely on a static model to navigate a dynamic, evolving world, you are eventually going to walk right off a cliff. Or at the very least, you are going to spend 3 incredibly frustrating hours debugging a fake path error.
And the fact that it was called a preview feature is almost poetic in a way. It actively rewards the people who are looking forward, the people looking at the newest documentation rather than looking backward at what used to work in the past.
It strongly rewards the curious.
I really want to circle back to the sheer volume of his personal notes one last time, because he has been doing this from 2011 to 2026. When he casually says he drafted his notes to solve this Python problem, he isn't just trying a new productivity hack. He is heavily leveraging a deeply ingrained habit that he has built over 15 years.
And that is the hidden superpower in this whole story. Most people panic when their workflow breaks. They flail around, they copy and paste random, dangerous commands from Stack Overflow or Reddit or ChatGPT. It is the classic try everything and pray method of troubleshooting.
Oh, I have absolutely been there.
Yeah.
You just think, maybe if I run it as an administrator this time, it will magically work.
Exactly. But Ang has rigidly trained himself to stop, breathe, and write. He asks himself, what is actually happening right now? What did I realistically expect to happen? What variables just changed in my environment? That daily discipline of documentation isn't just about keeping a historical record for fun. It is an active problem-solving tool. It literally forces your brain to slow down and think logically.
It is thinking on paper, or in his case, thinking on a public blog.
And by publishing it openly, he is doing something else that is really important. He is feeding the larger ecosystem.
He starts his posts with Dear Interweb, which I love.
He is a dedicated part of the open source community. The ethos is, if you struggle and finally find the real answer, you share it so the next person doesn't have to struggle. And ironically, by meticulously writing this blog post, he is actually generating the very training data that future AI models will use to finally learn about the preview flag.
Wow, it's very meta when you think about it. We are actively helping to educate the machine that just failed to help us.
It is a symbiotic relationship, but it only works if we firmly stay in the driver's seat. It only works if we absolutely remain the primary source of truth.
So let's do a quick recap of the journey we went on today. We started with the familiar headache of a software migration, moving from PN to UI.
We hit a massive wall with the testing tool Nox being completely blind to the new hidden Python paths.
We took a frustrating detour into the hackish land of AI suggestions, which urgently wanted us to hard-code paths and ruin the new tool's elegant design.
But we escaped that trap by using the plumber's method. We slowed down, drafted notes, did the manual research, and actually read the primary documentation.
Which gracefully led us to the native simple solution, the preview flag.
And ultimately, we learned that while AI is a fantastic, quick assistant to unblock your brainstorming, it makes for a truly terrible blind master.
I think the practical takeaway for you listening is pretty clear. Whether you are coding a complex app in Python, or you are trying to plant coleus in your backyard garden, or even if you are just trying to manage a messy team at work.
Step away from the desperate search for the quick answer.
Don't just slap duct tape on the leak. Take the time to understand how the pipes actually connect.
And seriously, write it down, keep a log, document your reality.
It sounds so incredibly simple, but when you look at a site like qianmeng.org, you really start to realize the compounding power of it.
I actually want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. We marveled at Eng's massive archive earlier, thousands and thousands of entries over a decade and a half. He has essentially built his own personal Wikipedia of his entire life, his hobbies, and his professional work.
It is an incredible legacy of hard-earned knowledge.
So think about this. If you completely stopped asking AI for all your answers today, if you stopped relying on that temporary little chat window that just vanishes into the ether the second you close the tab and you started writing down your own personal troubleshooting notes, just one detailed note a week about a problem you solved, what kind of ultimate source of truth would you have built for yourself in 15 years?
Now, that is a question really worth chewing on this week. Are you actively building your own permanent library of knowledge, or are you just constantly borrowing temporary books from a robot?
Exactly.
And thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. Definitely go check out qianmeng.org if you want to see what a decade of true discipline actually looks like. Or, if you just urgently need to know if your guppies will eat the algae in your tank.
Spoiler alert for the fish keepers out there. They probably will.
We will see you on the next deep dive. Keep learning and keep taking notes.